Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
I had some spare time because I just feel like there are no games coming out that I'm interested in at the moment.
That's so crazy. Okay, that's crazy to me. I know you mentioned that in one of our previous videos. Like, we got all these cool indie games, but I realized they're just all Doug games.
There's so many Doug games right now, so many Doug games.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went back and played one of my all-time favorite and one of the greatest JRPGs ever made, Final Fantasy IX.
Mm-hmm.
Been about 5-6 years since I played this.
Yeah.
Third or fourth time through it.
Really?
This game holds up.
Holy crap. I don't understand how you can do that. Just like knock out like a 40-hour JRPG or whatever. Okay. It's just like I struggle to finish 5-hour games.
To be fair, I played it like once when I was like 12 years old.
Okay.
And then I played it when it got released on the Switch, which would have been like 5-ish years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And then honestly what I saw that they were taking all the Final Fantasy games off PS Plus. And I was like, you know what? I never played Final Fantasy IX. I don't have anything to play. I didn't play Final Fantasy IX on PlayStation yet. I'll do that.
You did that with like a time crunch? That is insane.
I did.
That is insanity.
But I will say the versions now, the console versions now have like all the cheats and stuff, which I did use fairly... Sure. I used fairly liberally because, again, I've played it a few times. So it's like, okay, like... Yeah. Let's click on fast forward just real quick, scoot through this town. Okay, cool, great. I never liked this boss. All right, 9999 damage, done, moving on. Like,
that's funny, yeah.
Because really what I want to do, and again, to me, one of the reasons why I love Final Fantasy IX is just the characters, the story, and the themes. And the gameplay in it, like, I don't want to discount because the gameplay and the ability system in this is borderline flawless turn-based magic. And it's just so good. It's one of those games I think is the complete package. And I mean, I honestly would say it's probably the second best Final Fantasy, probably the second or third greatest JRPG ever. I love it. It's insane. For those of you who have never played this game...
It's super weird, is what I remember. I've played a few hours of it. It's like, this game is just so weird. So I'm surprised it's like, as a Final Fantasy fan, this is like, you're like, wow, Final Fantasy.
Okay, so I'm curious why you think it's weird, because it's not.
The
thing about this game when it came out was that it was a fairly straightforward Final Fantasy. It's like a return to the roots of Final Fantasy.
Yes, I came in at like 7 and 8, and then like 7, 8, and there's like, even how those games start is like bah, 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 bah. And then it's like this one, I'm like a little kid, like a cute little kid.
You're going to a play.
Yeah, going to a play. It's just like, what is this game? And like so to me, Final Fantasy was like, way back in the day, like old people would know it as like fantasy stuff, but to me it was always modern fantasy. So this game was just like really strange. The characters looked like weird and stuff. I mean, like when I got older, I did end up going back and like playing a little bit. I was like, actually, this is like a really cool game. But like I just remember the time when it came out, I was like, what the hell is... I saw a friend playing. I was like, this kind of looks lame. I was that guy. But I think now I have a much better appreciation for it. I'm just quietly waiting for a remake to get announced.
I mean, 12-year-old me probably thought the same thing. I played it, I think it was maybe the third or fourth one I played. So I think I played 10 and then I went to 7 and then maybe went back to 9 after I played 10. So it was early, but I kind of knew like, okay, Final Fantasy is cool. Like I love Final Fantasy. Like Final Fantasy 10 like blew my mind. Like this has got to be great too. It's the one right before it. It is very much a classic Final Fantasy game. It is, you start out going to a play. Our main character, Zidane, is basically the lead actor of this play, and they're secretly trying to kidnap a princess. And then you kidnap the princess, but the princess is also secretly trying to run away. And from there, we just build on like world-altering events after world-altering events, more or less. Again, it is a fairly straightforward story because, especially if you know Final Fantasy, you can kind of see the things coming where it's like, okay, there's going to be a crystal, there's going to be something else happening. And it's straightforward, but it's told in such a great way where it's like, again, it starts with a play.
Yeah.
You immediately after you like try to kidnap the princess, she's like, oh yeah, thanks for kidnapping me. Like I was trying to leave right now anyway. Like, okay, that's cool. The next time you go to like the king has been turned, or if he's a king or regent or something, has been turned into a frog, and you speak to a frog for half the game. Just, it does so many weird little things to just kind of play with it that it just ends up being amazing.
Do you have a greater appreciation for this game? Because I think like recently you went back to 6 and 4, kind of sort of recently. Do you have like a greater appreciation than like when you first played it? Because now you're seeing, I think now that you have a better perspective what some of the earlier games were doing, does that give you a greater appreciation for 9 or not really?
It definitely it definitely hints at a lot of those games in with different ways that I didn't catch before, where it's like, it's definitely, because again, I never played like any of the ones pre-7 until the past 3 or 4 years. And now going back and playing it, you can see like, oh, okay, like compared to 7 and 8, this is very much like okay, this is a Final Fantasy for those SNES people who really loved 4, 5, and 6. We're going to hint at a lot of these things. We're going to use a lot of those tropes. We're going to use a lot of that in this game. Again, just kind of starting with early stuff like the play being a big thing. Like obviously in 6, it's one of the huge scenes. Okay, well, let's start with the play in this. And there's these references back to it from there.
The tone, I remember the tone being like kind of silly too, compared to like, again, 7 and 8, 7, 8, and 10, let's say, like pretty generally serious game with like some lightheartedness. But this one is just like, it's a bunch of kind of goofballs.
Well, and I think that's the thing where like the main characters in 7 and 8 are like badass.
Yes,
like,
they're cool.
They are cool badass.
Yeah.
And you're just like this random dude who's a member of a play company who's kind of wrapped up into some loose criminal things who's just like, if they do Remake, they're gonna make him basically Tony Stark, where it's like he's gonna be quipping all day and like he's gonna be like that kind of like goofy ass person. Like that's who he is. Like he's just this kind of this goofball, kind of cool, but just this goofball character. And again, you get all these weird things where it's like, oh, it's a princess who doesn't want to be a princess. It's the knight who's just kind of like so into his like knightly duty that he doesn't quite know how to do anything other than that, and that ends up kind of like clashing with other personalities. Vivi, who's one of the stars of this game, is like just this weird, like doesn't quite understand what's going on thing. It's just the characters in this are so great that I think that's what makes it a huge departure from those two.
Oh, it's just the eclectic kind of characters.
Yeah, more so than anything else. Again, like I mean, to your point, there's weird stuff. Like one of the main like leaders in this game is a frog for the game. Yeah. Because like his wife left him, he got turned into a frog, and now he's just stuck as a frog. Like he's a main character. There you go. But what I do want to focus on is like the themes in this are so strong, and I think that's what really hits me in a lot of games now is where a game can take like a concept, and especially a JRPG, and make that a 40-hour concept.
Sure.
Every single thing in this game connects back to the theme of like, where is your home? What is home to you, and where do you belong? Oh, interesting. Because the main part, and I won't spoil where it gets to everything, but two of the main ones is Dagger, the princess, really struggles with, okay, like, the beginning of the game is basically her mom, the queen, going batshit crazy and just killing people.
Yeah.
So she's running away because her mom's kind of gotten crazy. She doesn't necessarily know, like, a whole bunch about her backstory, too, and there's a whole lot of stuff with her of, like, okay, but, like, now that mom's crazy, like, I ran away, like, I feel at home with these people, but this isn't my home. Like, what do I do as the princess? Vivi kind of embodies the whole game, though, in that theme, because essentially this black mages are
Let's
weird
not get
little...
too spoiled with Vivi stuff, because I haven't played this in a long time. I do your hype on this is like made me want to go back and play it.
I'm going to keep it to disc. Well, I'm going to keep it to what in my brain is disc. 4 discs.
Yeah.
But basically, so Vivi and the black mages are basically... Vivi doesn't understand until he sees these people that, like, there are hundreds of thousands of identical looking people to him.
Yeah.
And you find out fairly early on that these people are being controlled and are basically, like, mindless puppets.
Yeah.
But Vivi, for whatever reason, is this, like, complete character who has thoughts, ideas, has been in this world, and is just constantly trying to figure out how he fits. Like, am I just this puppet? What was I created for? Was I created? Where did I, like... And that just embodies what this game is everybody from the villains to every single person, I can point out every person in the main cast has some connection to this thought of like, where do I belong in this world? And it just, very few games I think are able to hold that theme over. I mean, I think with the cheats, I think it took me like 25 hours, but without it's probably closer to 40, a 40-hour story.
That's so interesting because I know I mentioned this to you like 4 or 5 times, and you know this obviously, but I was just finding it such an interesting thing. This game was made in Hawaii by like Americans and Japanese people, but like the way you're saying, it's like people who are like trying to find their home. It's like, oh, that just sounds like people who worked at that studio who were like from Japan and from America, like they came to Hawaii to work on this game and Spirits Within and all that stuff. And I don't know, that's actually really cool. I always like when it's like very clear that the devs have put some part of themselves in the game, and it really feels like it comes through. And I always feel like sometimes people don't like that stuff. It's like, these stories are like, I don't know. I really like the like personal touch. That seems almost more personal than any other Final Fantasy games from the ones I've played.
And again, it does have a lot of that where it's like, because the characters have such meaningful purpose. I think I talk about a lot in Final Fantasy where the characters, I think, are what drives me, but this one, very specifically and what I always held on to, and I think it's what I look for in a lot of other Final Fantasy games, is it's the characters that are ultimately like the interesting driving force of the story.
Yeah.
It's, well, Dagger doesn't know where to go now that she's run away. Her queen's trying to destroy these people. Do I help my people? Do I help the people that my mom's trying to attack? Like, what do I do in this situation?
Yeah.
Zidane, the main character, is just going like, well, I'm just going to help you because I don't know what else to do with my life right now, and maybe I can find some meaning in helping you because of this bigger story. Vivi is, walking around going like, I don't even know what the hell I am. Where do I go? And it's so much of this driving character piece in it that, again, the larger story, especially, disc 3.5 to 4, does the Final Fantasy like, oh my gosh, there's blah 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 world ending, blah 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 blah. Of course,
eventually the plot has to happen, kind of thing. Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. The plot has to happen, but the majority of the game is very much just you going like, let's go see if we can figure out what Vivi is about. What is Vivi about? Well, Dagger knows this person here that she thinks can help figure out what to do about the queen. Well, let's go talk to them. And the first 2 discs are mainly just that, of just kind of like figuring out this world, figuring out where these characters ultimately want to go. I don't even think you really even meet the main villain until maybe like disc 2. There really isn't a villain other than just like, oh, the queen seems crazy.
Situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And then disc 3, you kind of meet the main villain, and then the main villain, and the main.
Then Final Fantasy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so good. The gameplay holds up really well too. I kind of forgot about the ability system in this. So basically every piece of equipment gives you different abilities to equip, but depending on who equips it, changes the abilities. So like,
oh, weird.
A helm might have 2 things for your magic using characters, but 1 thing if you equip it to somebody who's like just a fighter. A magic staff might do 2 things to your people using like healing magic, and 1 thing for your person using like attack magic. So it does a lot of cool things, which is how abilities grow. After you use it a bunch, then you master it. Just it's such a perfect game. It's so perfect.
No, it's cool because I mean I know your number 1 is 10, right? I mean that's like yeah.
that's probably like emotional, personal, like, oh my god, I didn't know a video game could be this things more. So
sure,
it's one of those where it's like, if I had to say it, I think 9 is probably the better game, but 10 is just like, personally, like, that will never.
I mean, who cares what the better game is? Like, I care what you want. I care what's your favorite game. I don't care what the better game is. There's like, what is it? No, I mean, but it's also like, I mean, I don't know what other people think. I have no idea. It's like, I think this one's the best. Personally, other people might feel that way too. It's like, I don't know. As soon as people start saying like, this is objectively the better one, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, to who?
No, it's not. That's not a thing. Yeah. I will say too, like, every now and then you go back and you play like those old games, and some of those old PlayStation 1 cutscenes, so good. They just hold up. They're so cool.
There is.
It's like 30 seconds of just okay, like computer animation that's voiceless with just some like shocked faces of like crazy things happening, and it's just like, that's cool. I like those so good.
Yeah, there is something. It's even aside from nostalgia, like there's just something. They're just different. They're just how they're made. It's just they just look different and they feel different. And I think there is something kind of like right now. Even like I remember like some of the CG cutscenes in Final Fantasy VII Remake. They don't hit that hard. They're cool.
No,
they don't hit that hard though. But like going from even now without nostalgia, going from your little chunky PS1 things to a CG cutscene is cool. Like, I think unequivocally it's cool.
It's that set the controller down moment.
Yeah,
that's what I always used to feel like, where it's like, ooh, I can set the controller down and just soak this in for a second. Like, because now it's like, for a long time, it's like, okay, like, you're going to let me watch a cutscene, but then you made me do a quick time event, so I have to be, like, paying attention for that, so I can't really invest.
And everything. Yeah.
And now it's like, well, it's just such a smooth transition to, like, oh, the camera pans behind your back, and now you're playing, and it's like, okay, like, am I playing right now, am I not? And this is like, no, set the controller down. Shit's about to happen. Let's get emotional for a minute. Like, this is going to be a big deal. And just, they still hit so good.
Yeah, that's cool.
Last point, because I just played 16 and that's like fresh in my brain Final Fantasy wise. This game does summons so well and uses them so cool.
You texted that to me and that made me like so much more. I love summons. So that made me like super interested when they're like really incorporated in the game.
So they're very incorporated. I don't want to get too much into like how they're incorporated, but basically like when you start the game, Dagger has access, like you open it up, she has like 12 MP, but you can go to her summon menu and it literally lists every summon with like 48 MP, 37 MP, 72.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
and then
that's sick.
things happen, and then that menu like bloop goes away. But when you open it up, like initially, they're just like, I don't know if they're all there, but a lot of them are there.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then and they are very intricately connected to the plot in a few points. But then there's a couple scenes, like I think we talked about in our Final Fantasy 16 stuff, where these summons are just like wrecking the world.
Yeah, yeah.
9 did that just as well.
Just as well. Goddamn, dude.
Just as, I mean, obviously PS1 era just as well as PS5, just as but in terms of context of the story and everything, just as it's so good. Like those things happen, and there's one or two scenes in particular. It's just like, whoo.
To me, sometimes, I mean, to you too, probably. It's like it doesn't. It's cool when stuff looks really good with next gen graphics and stuff, but it can hit just as hard with like an older game, like or just a game that's like an indie game or whatever. It's like where they can just blow up the world or whatever. Like I know 6 does some crazy stuff too, but it's just like that can still hit as hard even without the CG cut or not. I mean, without the next gen graphics and stuff.
There's a big transition in 6 that definitely hits really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Without spoiling things for 6, you should go play Final Fantasy games. It turns out they're good.
They're so long.
Seriously,
I need to play them on handheld.
I would tell
I need to get them on handheld. I think
play them with cheats, because like if you do like in this, I don't know. This is probably boring for the actual video, but anyway,
I don't care. Whatever.
Like world map, you turn on that fast speed, you turn battles to 999, and then just literally you can just walk from one place to the other. Like I spent maybe like 30 minutes on the world map this entire game. So it's like, and you can get through a battle in 10 seconds. You're not really missing anything. Like, it speeds up some of those parts where it's like, this is cool the first time you play. It's like, oh, look, I'm seeing all these monsters. It's like, I've seen these monsters before. I know what monsters are in this area.
Yeah. Because I did play. I think I might own it on something because I remember turning off random encounters because like I had gone through this part like 2 or 3 times. Like, this is stupid, just turning them off. Maybe I do have a save on a Switch somewhere now that I think about it. I might actually have that. I might have this sitting on a Switch somewhere.
Final Fantasy 9 review the second coming in 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I don't know. That remake's definitely coming somewhere. I don't know.
Only for the past 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to our channel. There's a link to Sports and Coffee as well. We'll see you later.
Bye.